One of the biggest challenges for any collector can be finding a way to live with their collection. Part of the fun in collecting is being able to display those items that you're so passionate about without them taking over your home. That's even more challenging if the thing you collect is something you actually use on a regular basis rather than just look at on a shelf. For many music collectors, whether it's vinyl or CD, that's likely to be the case. Chances are those people are pulling items out of their collection every day to listen to and enjoy. So as we were shopping for a new house a few years ago, finding a home with a good space for my collection to live was high on my wish list. So when we toured a house with a finished basement and a dedicated office space, I knew I'd found my new music room. The room itself is 12 foot by 12 foot square with 9-foot ceilings and a hardwood floor. There's a pair of glass paneled doors between the music room and the downstairs family room, as well as a second standard door in the opposite corner. I decided that the largest wall would be the perfect spot for my CDs, using a bracket shelving system nearly floor to ceiling. This would allow for up to 15 shelves spanning nearly the entire height of the wall. For browsability, I decided it would be best to split the shelves into 3 columns. Since the shelving system would fit perfectly and seamlessly using 3 columns of 4-foot shelves, I had to install plastic tabs at the ends of each shelf to act as bookends. Then, to create a visual separation to define the individual columns, I lined the edges of the middle column shelves with red duct tape. While a CD case is only about 6 inches deep, I still wanted to be sure I had a little flexibility in my storage, so I opted for shelves that were 8 inches deep. In order to keep my discs lined up at the edge of the shelves, I applied window insulation tape along the length of the shelves at the depth of a standard CD. The tape creates a point of resistance, so discs slide into place easily and stop where they should, but the foam tape is soft enough that longer items can also be set over it without issue. Finally, I decided to install a bookshelf audio system in the center of the wall. Along the back, I installed red fabric as a sort of curtain and also added color-changing LED lighting along the underside of the shelf above. I've dubbed this area the stage. The final touch was adding this simple easel to display the CD case for whatever album is now playing. That idea is a carryover from my days working at a record store. Whatever was playing in the store was always displayed on a now playing easel for the customers to see. Record stores were, in fact, the major inspiration for the music room. As I was designing the space, I knew I could go one of 2 ways. There's nothing better than the dusty old independent record shops we've all visited, with graffiti and flyers all over the walls, stacks of discs everywhere you turn, tattered promo posters on the ceiling, and handwritten category signs to help you find what you're looking for. As much as I appreciate that nostalgic experience, I instead opted for a more clean and modern retail-inspired environment. Rather than handwritten signs, I printed custom labels. For the artists that have the largest volume of music in my collection, I created shelf talkers to highlight their individual sections. Then I added shelf dividers to further break down the collection alphabetically and by genre. Speaking of genres, I don't break it down too much. The bulk of my collection is categorized under a single header for pop, rock, and country. After that is a section for various artists' collections, followed by jazz, classical, and new age all grouped together. Next is soundtracks, and finally, comedy and spoken word. As for box sets, I've always struggled with how to store those in a way that's practical. Rather than cram those oversized boxes into my shelves, I've instead opted to remove the discs and just store those alongside the rest of my CDs for easy access. For box sets that included individual CD cases or sleeves, those fit easily into my collection. For sleeves, I created simple slip cases out of cheap note card holders to keep all of the discs grouped together. For some box sets that had no CD cases or sleeves, I opted to store the discs in empty multi-disc cases with track lists printed out as inserts. As you can see, I'm just about at maximum capacity. For now, the top shelf across all 3 columns is being used to display the remnants of my collection of music cassettes and VHS tapes. I'll likely be boxing those up in the near future to let my CDs expand into that space. One question I get a lot is, are those shelves bending? The answer is yes, they are. The shelves are supported by brackets 16 inches from each end. Since there's no actual supports on either end of the shelves, they all bow slightly from the weight. If I had it all to do again, I'd add an extra support bracket for each shelf. Then on the floor below all the CD shelves is a row of bins. About half of these end up holding overstock that accumulates over the course of the year until I shuffle new additions into my collection each January. To the right of my CD collection is a cart holding a few of the larger deluxe edition box sets and a couple of bins for new arrivals to my collection. Above the cart is a shelf to display autograph discs, which is already at capacity, 3 or 4 discs deep all the way across. Then over to the left of my collection is a bookshelf for all my music-related books. Like my CD shelves, I'm pretty much at capacity here, but I can always remove the storage bins when needed. In the center of the room is one of the coolest projects I took on for the music room, and that's my tour case coffee table. Ideally, I'd like to have used an actual black concert tour case, but those are very expensive. Instead, I opted for a black trunk that looks similar to a traditional tour case, and then stenciled it as if it came from a Rolling Stones concert tour. Then for the top, I put together a collection of concert ticket stubs I've collected over many years, and I'm displaying them underneath a custom-cut sheet of plexiglass. Incidentally, that trunk is where I've stashed away all of those empty box sets. Along the wall facing the CD collection is the lounge area. On the wall above the futon is a decorative checkerboard of acoustic panels, which actually does a nice job of making this room sound pretty great. My plan had been to use Velcro strips to attach those to a cardboard sheet and then screw the whole thing up to the wall. It looked great at first, but not so much the next day. I ended up gluing the panels to the cardboard instead, and they've stayed put since then. To the right of the futon, I've got a mini fridge for beverages, which also doubles as an end table. Above that is an old payphone, which is just for looks. It didn't work when I got it, and it weighed a ton. I gutted out the electronics inside before mounting it on the wall, which reduced the weight by about 25%. I'm tempted to stick an out-of-order sign on it, just for fun. Hanging on the back of the door here is a step ladder, which is absolutely essential for reaching the upper CD shelves. At some point, I'd like to upgrade to a rolling library ladder. Over to the left is another cool area that helps to give the room a record store feel. First, there's a magazine rack holding various issues of Rolling Stone and other music and entertainment magazines. Above that, no record store is complete without a place to post a list of upcoming releases. Following the same line of thinking I had for the stage, I've dubbed this light-up dry erase board the marquee. Both areas can be controlled by remote control. Finally, here's a look at the entrance to the music room. On the wall outside are a couple photos I took at a pair of dusty old record shops. The first is Recycled Records, located in Springfield, Illinois, and the second is Lawrence Records, which is on Broadway in the heart of Nashville, Tennessee. The finishing touch is this retro open-closed sign. The hours are made up, of course. Arguably, the music room is open 24 hours a day, and it's certainly not closed on Sundays. Then on the flip side, where it says closed, I wanted to be sure to include a more positive message. For that, I've chosen the words of the immortal Buddy Holly, "Not fade away." Thanks for taking a tour of the music room with me. Hopefully you've found some inspiration to use for your own music room or listening space. If you're interested in trying to recreate any of my projects, I'll include Amazon links in the description below to some of the items that I've used. Meanwhile, be sure to check out the rest of the videos on my channel and subscribe for tons of music reviews, news, and commentary. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.